You Act about Dr. Yojna, I want to share. She is AI strategist and keynote speaker. She is humanizing AI in regulated industries. She is helping leaders scale AI and people trust. Welcome, Dr. Yojna, on the screen. Thank you so much for accepting our request.
Thank you so much, Shweta. I'm really glad for this invitation and happy to be here today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yojna. We would love to know more about you, what you do, and what we are going to talk today.
Okay, so briefly about me, as you mentioned, I'm an AI speaker, consultant, and also founder of a digital health company, basically working at the intersection of healthcare, AI governance, and digital transformation. I come from pharmaceutical industry where I spent more than 16 years working across medical governance and medical affairs with GlaxoSmithKline, the longest duration for 11 years. I also worked with Novartis and Eli Lilly projects before I transitioned into the digital health domain. But more or less, my entire career has been built around highly regulated environments in healthcare innovation, governance systems, and I'm really keen about understanding how technology, not only medicine, but technology impacts human lives. Yeah, so this is my professional background, but apart from that, I have always been a public speaker, a TEDx speaker, an author, and a poet as well. And I have been speaking about digital transformation, innovation, and leadership for a long time. So honestly, when AI entered the picture, for me, the core conversation did not fundamentally change, just the terminology evolved. So it's still about digital transformation, about change management in these industries. Now we are just replacing that with, okay, AI. Yeah. So today I'm helping leaders and organizations specifically understand AI governance, what is responsible AI, how to increase your AI adoption, and how to scale AI innovation in a way that is ethical, trustworthy, and aligned with real human impact, especially in highly regulated industries like pharma and healthcare I come from. So that's why this conversation you invited me for around the EU AI Act that I found very interesting because it is incredibly relevant right now because AI is no longer just a technology conversation. It is becoming a leadership, governance, and trust conversation. So happy to be with you.
And indeed, thank you so much for accepting Dr. Yojna. And indeed, I totally agree with you that AI become governance issue. And here, as you mentioned, ethical, trust aligned, that's very important. And when we talk about AI EU Act, as you mentioned, digital transformation and change management that you are doing, and I totally agree on that. Do you think like now the more change going to happen in the near future when we talk about AI EU Act? What is this about? Because I think some audience may be not aware about this. So first, I want to know from you, what is this AI EU Act exactly?
So I will just give a one-liner that this is a first framework in the entire industry worldwide that Europe is providing for a trustworthy and responsible AI. Okay. And it is globally very important because this is the first major regulation that is classifying AI systems based on the level of risk they create for individuals and the society. So instead of asking, till now it was all about, okay, what can AI do? And this is happening, that is happening, the capabilities. But now the conversations are around, okay, what harm can AI cause? What happens when something goes wrong? Who is accountable? And how do we protect human rights while still enabling innovation? So I know that there is so much buzz and so much noise around, okay, every day there is some news around AI. Every day there is something like within 6 months time span, you can see there has been so many changes and so many advancements going on. But at the same time, the governance related things I'm really happy are also slowly building. And as you asked me, EU AI Act is basically the first framework that is put into place. And I'm sure after this, rest of the world is going to follow and things are happening.
Yeah, and as AI becoming the part of our daily life, governance is important, even in industries, in tech, even in every segment. AI is changing a lot of things. Now, why leaders are now so active, and this is getting the global positioning as well. They are looking forward for how we can have AI governance in our organization. What is the main agenda? You have already shared. Still, there are some key points what come into picture, like some case studies or some data you want to share here.
So see, 2024-25, we were into the experimentation phase, right? Something new was there, a toy was there that made buzz all around the world. And everybody was like, okay, fine, how do we use it? How do we do this, that? Not only individuals using generative AI, but companies, organizations trying to incorporate, launch projects and all. So it was in the test tube phase. But now it is moving from experimentation to infrastructure. And once any technology becomes infrastructure, then governance becomes unavoidable because now it is impacting real lives, it is impacting hiring, it is impacting lending, it is impacting doctor decision making. So this is no longer just like toy you can play around with and just have fun. That okay, yeah, it is saving my this percentage of time that someone can write my emails. And no, it is not only this, it is not a toy. It is having far bigger impact going forward on the entire humanity, and we need to understand this, right? So governance, definitely, when the scale has increased so much, it becomes inevitably important. Now, coming to the EU AI Act specifically, I would say this is no longer just a European regulation. Yeah, EU has launched it. It is a phase-wise regulation, if you know. In 2026, it is going to be executed in a much more broader way. So, despite of being just a European regulation, you can see in very soon it's going to become a global business reality. Because, for example, take India, and
Yeah.
we are in a global environment, and companies in India are already like serving European clients, building AI products for global markets, or handling international data, or deploying AI across regulated industries. So the ripple effects are going to be far beyond Europe, right? But honestly, even beyond compliance, I would say the bigger issue is trust. And EU AI Act raises these universal leadership questions. Number one, is AI fair? Second, is it explainable? Third, is the customer data protected? And fourth, who is accountable when something goes wrong, right? If you remember, just a few months back, we were discussing around the concepts of, okay, a black box concept, hallucinations, right? Now, whatever you do
Right.
with your AI, whatever you do with your project, you can't escape saying that it's a black box. You have to make that black box into glass box. You have to deal with the
Mhm.
hallucinations because ultimately, whatever you're producing out of your AI tools, if it is impacting the customer and the life of a customer, you need to explain what happened, why happened, who was responsible. So these are the tenets of this act, which I'm sure everybody should understand going forward. And this is why we are having this conversation so that at least we can cover the basics and the high level of this act today.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing the key pillars which every leader should know right now when we are
Yeah.
considering AI Act. It's applicable in every organization in coming time. Every leader should understand, not only understand, make their team understand that this act is very important and governance is very important. You exactly shared, when there is an infrastructure, then there is a governance. And it is making, it's a form, it's a phase wise thing happening right now. Beyond compliance, when you mentioned, what do you mean by that? Like how it's like what we can do to make it stay compliant? I want to know more about that.
So, see, whenever we talk about any kind of new framework or policy, the biggest mistake
Mm-hmm.
companies, organizations make is make it or consider it just as a legal burden. That, okay, fine, there's a new policy, we need to comply to it. I would say this is more of a strategic opportunity for companies because going forward, when everybody would be using AI, the companies that will succeed are the ones, number one, who are able to scale these systems in a beautiful way that everybody is loving it and it's trustworthy, aligned, and all those things. Second thing is that your customers trust you. So trust itself is going to become a competitive advantage in the AI era. And when you comply to these frameworks, Either it is EU AI Act or, for example, India developed some other, like India is working on its EU
Yeah.
policy, sorry, AI policies, making it part of AI related policy making. China is working on something, UK is working, US is working. So there are different types of guidelines. So if as an
Right.
organization you think long term, then I would say it becomes more of a competitive advantage and not something that you do just to avoid any penalty. If you are compliant, your customers will love you, your investors will trust you, your regulators will be happy, and even employees who are increasingly wanting AI systems, they will be happy that it's transparent, it's accountable, and safe. So the organizations building responsible AI early on will scale credibility much
Mhm.
faster. So this is something very important for the leadership to understand. I don't think leadership is understanding in most of the organizations right now, because at the moment, wherever I go, whomsoever I talk with, it's mostly 90% it's around, okay, the capability, the efficiency, model, algorithm.
Mm.
People are not understanding is that where projects fail, and 70 to 80% of AI projects fail to scale, not because of the algorithm, but because of trust and adoption issues. Yeah, I hope I answered your
Oh,
question.
indeed. Yeah, yes, absolutely. You majorly answer the concept here that, governance is the key, which is very important right now. And very well, you have shared that now AI is becoming part of HR. It's also AI is becoming part of different systems. I have done different AI talks before, and I found like people usually say now AI is like of your colleague for you. Like as there are HR acts, as there are corporate acts, different acts are there. Legal penalty when you mention. In the same way, there is a AI act. As a AI, you have a colleague which is very smart. Now, when we talk about China, India, UK, different. There are different rules, regulations which need to be taken care, right? Now, is it possible? Because the AI, is it different everywhere? That's why different rules and regulations? Or why, because it's very important. If AI is same in the all over the world, why not one AI act? So I'm thinking about that.
See, in different countries, they will, of course, design their own policies and different
Mm-hmm.
frameworks. That always happens for everything. Whether you talk about consumer privacy, data privacy, or healthcare related activities, or governance related activities, that always happens. Countries have their own prerogative. Countries have their own boundaries. That okay, somebody will be very strict, somebody will be a little bit lenient, but the framework, the key tenets, the pillars, that doesn't change. And in case of AI, like if I give you example of EU Act, because this is going to be the benchmark for rest of the world going forward. The key tenets are
Mm-hmm.
a risk-based system, more the risk to the humanity, to individuals, to their private lives, to their data, and their to the society. More exposure, more risk,
Mm-hmm.
higher and more stricter the rules are. Okay, so I will just in a minute talk about give a brief of this risk-based system. Okay, so this is
Yeah.
one. Second thing is EU AI Act is transparency. Okay, so it says that okay, fine, whatever you are doing, you should be able to tell us that why it happened, how it happened. Okay, you can't just say that okay, the system did something. For example, if a system denied me loan, I applied
Mm-hmm.
for a credit and it denied me loan, it should be able to justify that why my loan was denied. So explainability need to be built into the system. Okay. Third is, which is very important, is accountability. That there is a human in the loop and there's human oversight, and you are able to, tell when you, again, it falls under transparency only, that you are able to clearly show the accountability. So these are some basic tenets of this act, and I'm sure of any act wherever it will be developed, whether in India, US, UK, the basic pillars of governance are going to remain same. Now, just to give you a brief of, first of all, people talk a lot about responsible AI governance. What is this? What is responsible
Right.
AI and what is AI governance, right? So we need to understand that these are the same thing. These are like responsible AI is a philosophy. It's like a soul, and governance is the body. So AI, responsible AI gives you the principles, that, okay, the AI tools, the AI application should be trustworthy, accountable, unbiased, explainable, reliable, all these things, so you define for yourself that how your system should behave. As we set rules for human beings, that, okay, and like as an individual, as an Indian, I should behave this way. Okay. Our values are freedom, harmony, love, this, that, right? So this is responsible AI, the framework. Now, how do you manage it? How do you do it is AI governance. How do you implement responsible AI is AI governance, that is the body, and responsible AI is the soul. So answering to your question, regardless of whichever country develops policies or procedures, I believe EU AI Act is the pioneer, is the first framework. So most of the countries are going to follow almost more or less similar things, depending on the appetite of each country and the boundaries, depending on how they want to implement their systems and how much strictness they want to keep around it.
Yeah, very clear. Thank you so much for sharing this, Dr. Yojna. And here, see, with the upcoming AI, lots of new AI startups are coming. How this regulation impacts startups and enterprises, whether it's different or whether it's same.
Very, very good question. See, the impact will be definitely somewhat different for startups and large organizations. Okay. So, for example, large organizations, and both has pros and cons, both have positives and negatives on their sides. For example, if I'm a large organization like GlaxoSmithKline or Novartis or IBM, so I already have legal teams, I already have compliance structures, and I have frameworks, I have dealt with these things in the past, I have risk management systems in place. So doing something like this and adapting becomes easier for me because I have the infrastructure in place, right? While on the other hand, startups may find this more challenging because they are often struggling with limited resources. And on top of that, there is these requirements. So it's like, okay, fine, we have to dedicate resources towards this also, and somebody needs to do the exercise, somebody needs to do the work at the end of the day, right? Legal comes into picture and all those things. But on the other hand, there are upsides also for startups, and I would say it's a big one because as much as I have understood, I have studied and understood, and I'm constantly upgrading myself around these faculties, AI governance, and I speak and I interact a lot with experts in this field and organizations big organizations, startups dealing with this. So what I realized is that yes, large organizations do have infrastructure, money, but doing something like this in an already set system, you know, it is in itself a big task because if you have to roll out a new policy and a framework across geographies, across thousands of employees, across business units. That is in theory, it's easy that you just define your responsible AI principles and AI governance managers. But in practice, having worked in GlaxoSmithKline for 10 years, I can tell you it's a mammoth task. It's very difficult. Okay. And here the startups have an advantage because if they are building a AI tool or they're deploying AI tools from any client, any major, they can build into the responsible AI practices from the very beginning instead of trying to retrofit the governance later, which is a big advantage, I would say, and where the startups can win. If a large company and a startup are developing similar kind of project, it is going to be easier for startup to build it into the design as compared to a large company. That's what I think. Yeah, so both have up and downside, depends on the leadership, how you manage the project from the very start. That governance is built inside the system and not tried to be patched onto later. Yeah, hope you
Well
agree.
born. I totally. I mean, it's you have shared indeed a very insightful point, which I think everyone who is listening right now, whether from startup or organization,
Mhm.
enterprises, will help them. So now my next question for you is like, as you mentioned, transparency, data, because as AI governance comes into picture, you need to share more data to the government authorities to build transparency, like what kind of data you're storing and everything inside. So there is one question by Manoj. He mentioned, should companies, I'm just display it, should
Mhm.
company create internal AI ethics committee? So what's your
Yeah, why not?
response for that?
Absolutely. Since if your organization is planning to build a new tool by yourself, although most of the times we are not building something from the scratch, we are deploying or customizing from OpenAI or Anthropic, or Claude. So, but whatever stage you are in, it's very important that first of all you build your AI inventory and you do a assessment of how this tool is going to be used in your company. Okay, understand that if it is really solving a problem or you are just doing it for hype that everybody else is doing it in the industry, so I should be doing it. And you make ethics committee or assessment committee, whatever you want to call it. This is a very good practice many companies are adopting, having responsible people. This is a very long topic, Shweta. I can give workshops on this topic, how
I
to
totally
examine,
understand.
but I will
Yeah.
just summarize that what is important is not to have a title saying AI governance manager, okay, because
Yeah.
that doesn't work. It works. Governance can be implemented for these projects only when it is coming from top to bottom and the leadership is completely aligned. And so that's why it's a big debate, and there are topics only about, okay, who should take the accountability for a new AI project? Should it be the CEO or CTO? It should be the buy-in should be and the accountability should be from the CXOs. So the research has shown that when the accountability lies with the CXOs, the chances of the project getting successful and scale are multiple fold higher as compared to just one business team doing it and without complete buy-in, because they can start, they can pilot, but then they get stuck at some point. So it is not only just a technical thing to roll out any AI project, it is more of organizational and cultural aspects involved to make it a success in any company. So yeah, yes to your question,
Indeed.
yes. The question you should definitely, this is a good one to have an ethics committee. That's what I think. Yeah, so both have up and downside, depends on the leadership, how you manage the project from the very start. That governance is built inside the system and not tried to be patched onto later. Yeah, hope you
Well
agree.
born. I totally. I mean, it's you have shared indeed a very insightful point, which I think everyone who is listening right now, whether from startup or organization,
Mhm.
enterprises, will help them. So now my next question for you is like, as you mentioned, transparency, data, because as AI governance comes into picture, you need to share more data to the government authorities to build transparency, like what kind of data you're storing and everything inside. So there is one question by Manoj. He mentioned, should companies, I'm just display it, should company create internal AI ethics committee? So what's your
Yeah, why not?
response for that?
Absolutely. Since if your organization is planning to build a new tool by yourself, although most of the times we are not building something from the scratch, we are deploying or customizing from OpenAI or Anthropic, or Claude. So, but whatever stage you are in, it's very important that first of all you build your AI inventory and you do a assessment of how this tool is going to be used in your company. Okay, understand that if it is really solving a problem or you are just doing it for hype that everybody else is doing it in the industry, so I should be doing it. And you make ethics committee or assessment committee, whatever you want to call it. This is a very good practice many companies are adopting, having responsible people. Again, this is a very long topic, Rita. I can give workshops on this topic, how to
I totally
examine,
understand.
but I will
Yeah.
just summarize that what is important is not to have a title saying AI governance manager, okay, because
Yeah.
that doesn't work. It works. Governance can be implemented for these projects only when it is coming from top to bottom and the leadership is completely aligned. And so that's why it's a big debate, and there are topics only about, okay, who should take the accountability for a new AI project? Should it be the CEO or CTO? It should be the buy-in should be and the accountability should be from the CXOs. So the research has shown that when the accountability lies with the CXOs, the chances of the project getting successful and scale are multiple fold higher as compared to just one business team doing it and without complete buy-in, because they can start, they can pilot, but then they get stuck at some point. So it is not only just a technical thing to roll out any AI project, it is more of organizational and cultural aspects involved to make it a success in any company. So yeah, yes to your question,
Indeed.
yes. the question, you should definitely, this is a good one to have an ethics committee or ethics or assessment, basically, assessment of your AI project, present and future, to be done.
Thank you so much, Manoj, for asking this question. And thank you, everyone. If you have any question, you can put in the chat so that we can take it up. And yes, there is next question coming from Zohib. He mentioned like in banking, there's a lot of influx in banking from AI. Is it safe? Different industries. So is it safe? Safety is a consideration.
No, I don't understand your question. So are you talking as a customer or you're talking as a bank IT employee who is working on an AI project?
Both you can share. Then he will. Yeah, Zohaib, you can also share more in the chat.
So see, as I said, as a customer, we are just looking at the output, how our lives are getting affected. Our turnaround times, our service given to me as a customer is affected. It doesn't matter how the bank is serving me. To me, it doesn't matter whether it is using human beings or it is using the AI tool, it doesn't matter. My basic activities related to bank, online banking, transactions, safety, security, they should be taken care of. I don't think this is something which is of concern to me. But yes, if you're an AI project leader or an AI architect working in the banking sector and then asking this question, then I would say yes. And coming to this point, banking, HR, healthcare, these are the high risk sections, high risk categories under the EU AI Act. So as I mentioned, EU AI Act is based on a risk-based approach. It classifies all the AI tools into 4 categories. Okay. Unacceptable, completely banned, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. Okay. So unacceptable or completely banned are the ones, for example, that does social scoring and encourage any kind of discrimination based on personal habits, do some kind of classification based on ethnicity. So basically, these types of apps are completely banned, and there are big penalties if you violate these policies. The high risk category, where accountability, transparency are very much required. In this category, as I mentioned, fall HR, banking, healthcare, education. Yeah, so these are high risk. In minimal risk are the companies or the products where it's okay to just be transparent and tell that, okay, yeah, you are talking to a chatbot and not a human being. So it just calls for example, the chatbots, customer care agents. So they are ones in minimal risk because it is not posing any harm directly to a customer, but you need to openly share that I'm talking to a AI chatbot and not a human being, because after a while you will not even be able to differentiate if you're talking to a human or a chatbot, right? Yes. So transparency is required. And the last ones, the spam filters, music recommendations. So these are minimal risk and they are completely they are fine. The banking, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I hope Zohaib you get your answer. He also added the point here that IT and other processes, not only customer interaction, like they are giving data to understand the cache needs and even other approach. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Zohaib, for interacting, and I hope you get your answer. Now, see, do you want to share any example of any company, Dr. Yojna, that apply this act? Any successful example or anything if you want to mention?
There are many companies actually. For example, the big companies like Amazon and IBM, Microsoft, Google, they have publicly invested in responsible AI frameworks, the governance structures, ethics teams, and transparency initiatives. And actually, it is slowly becoming mandatory. So recently, I gave a talk on their architecture day. There's a big $50 billion company called Mars. All of you must have had Mars chocolates, right? It's a multi business unit, a very big organization. They are into snacking, they are into veterinary, and recently they had some big acquisitions as well. So I was the only external speaker at their company recently, and while preparing for that keynote, what I realized was that despite of being such a big company, and despite of having responsible AI framework and a director, in place, and everything looks beautiful, but the struggle is implementation across such a big organization, because the level of literacy of people with regard to digital transformation, with regard to digital projects, it varies great deals. So implementing becomes a big problem. So companies, the big companies, even in consumer, if we talk about the retail, I think P&G is doing, Nestle is doing a lot of work. So they are now having these frameworks, governance structures, and everything. In healthcare and pharma as well, organizations are becoming much more cautious around AI validation. There are talks, conferences around governance and building explainability, patient data governance, human oversight in these environments. But as I mentioned, the real challenge is no longer creating these frameworks on the paper. The real struggle is operationalizing them. How do you apply those consistently across teams and products and vendors and fast moving AI deployments? Yeah, so this is really funny and it's such a big challenge. I mean, we are probably oversimplifying it, but you will see this is companies are going to be really those who can make a balance between governance and efficiency and advancement technology. They will be the winners of this race because everybody is going to use the products and things are moving so quickly that today you are deploying something, tomorrow you have to deploy something else. So the execution gap is where many organizations are struggling today, and the ones who can figure it out and bring everybody on board from the top to down, top to bottom to up, they will be the real winners.
Wow. I mean, yes, operational efficiency and implementation. I totally agree. Like in coming years, when things move too fast, then the winners are who understand how to implement efficiently. Now, Dr. Yojna, any message, any action you want to share for the leaders, who are listening this after this session, what they can take and change their mindset around this AI EU Act?
Wonderful question. As a coach, I have many action items. But if I have to just say one action item, I would say conduct an AI governance and compliance readiness assessment, okay, as early as possible. So regardless of whether you are at the pilot stage or you are trying to scale, or even before that, if you are just thinking around deploying, like, adding a vendor-based product, do a complete evaluation and first identify that what real problem this product is going to solve for your company. Yeah. Who will be your customers, internal or external? If you deploy these systems, that what other system you are replacing? Yeah. How your new workflows are going to look like? What are you experimenting with? And very importantly, what risks did you create? What risks? So map out those risks very early on and make sure that you can do a proper classification, categorization based on the risks you are exposing your organization to, and ensure that you have proper human oversight. Also check if you are legally and operationally prepared, right? So I'm not trying to scare you, but because the scale of this assessment will vary from what type of product you are going to deploy. Yeah. What is the scale you want to achieve? If it is just like within your organization, within your business unit, or it's a multi-geography, you're serving EU also, or you are serving only India. So there are several aspects of this. And yeah, if you want any help, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can take it further and I can try to see how I can help you. But this is a very basic one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yojna, for sharing these valuable insights. And yes, if you want to connect with Dr. Yojna, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. And yes, looking forward for more such sessions. Thank you once again, everyone, for being here, joining on this conversation. And it's an important conversation. More of such conversations we want ahead. Yeah, Dr. Yojna. Any last message? Anything?
No, it was a good conversation. It is a very time relevant discussion. As I mentioned, I will repeat it again. The companies who will win in this AI race will not be the one with the best model, but the ones with the best governance systems. Because the question is no longer if AI can work. The question is, can organizations work with AI? So just remember this.
Thank you everyone for joining. Stay tuned. We are going to have more such episodes ahead. Thank you everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Bye-bye.